strategy execution. And OKRs and setting up, capturing the strategy and the key metrics is certain the first part of that. But the second part is doing something about it. And what we're looking for is where are the low-hanging bits of fruit where we can improve the performance to help us achieve the strategy. We recently had a client that had this remarkable outcome that I want to share with you. So their example was a customer onboarding process. So if we take a look at that process as a timeline, the start, of course, is whenever sales is asking the organization to onboard a new customer. And the end is when we actually can do the first transaction. And in their case, that spanned 2 weeks. Let's take a look at what happened. The first step is after sales contacts the internal sales team, there's a bunch of waiting time, while it gets to the top, they're in basket and they get around to it. And that's called non-value added activity or non-value added time. These are the activities that consume your resources, your time, space, and so on, but they don't actually help the customer at all. Now, once it gets to internal sales, then they're going to send the welcome and a request for the account information. Now, I'm coloring that green. That's a value-added activity. That's an activity that actually helps move the information along, transforms the material towards achieving the customer outcome. So they send it to the customer, and then we're stuck waiting for the customer to reply to that request. Once we get it, we have to validate the data to make sure it's complete. Once we get it, we then are going to send it on to our internal credit department. They're going to take a look at it and see whether that customer is creditworthy or not, and whether we can accept them. So there's a chunk of work that has to get done. Again, they send it to sales, back to sales, waiting there in basket. Eventually, sales gets around to taking a look at it, and they can create those customized contracts for that customer and send it off. Then we have to wait for their signature. Once we get their signature back, it then goes to legal, and they've got to review and countersign. Finally, we send it back to sales saying this is approved, we have the contracts in place, we're good to go, and we can do our first transaction. So that's a span that takes 2 weeks. And we've seen this time and time again. But if we take a look at this, I'm just going to put all the value-added stuff on the left-hand side. So time to money is 2 weeks. But if we take a look at the value-added, there's this thin sliver of value-added activity. And most of our clients are beginning to use AI to try to address that and make our labor force more productive. But it's important to note in that cycle of time to money, that's a very small portion. Yes, you're reducing your labor costs, but you're doing nothing to get to revenue sooner. You have this huge span of non-value added activity. This is the low-hanging fruit. If you've ever read the book from Michael Hammer called Re-Engineering the Organization, his mathematics say that only about 3% of our time is green. The rest of it, 97%, is this non-value added stuff. And so what can we do to compress that? Well, this organization, through some magic, has managed to reduce that to 3/4 of a week from the 2 weeks it was before. And they've been using this tool called Mello. And what Mello does is basically you put in the flow chart what that process looks like, and then it automates you through the process. So there's no in basket, out basket, waiting to get to the next department and so forth. And there's still non-value added activity, but it's significantly compressed, and their time to money is almost twice as fast as it was before.